On the night of June 27, 1969, people all over New York headed out to their favorite bars and clubs. On Christopher Street, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer people wanting to have a fun night could head to the Stonewall Inn. The nightclub had only been a gay bar for about 2 years. Before that, it had been just another place for straight people to drink until a fire destroyed the place. Members of the mafia bought it and turned it into a gay bar, recognizing the untapped corner of the market. The LGBTQ community wanted places to slip away from the world, and they would pay for high-priced, watered-down drinks just for the opportunity to be themselves. Prominent public figures would sometimes find themselves blackmailed after having frequented the nightclub, but as their way of life itself was illegal, being protected by the mafia from the police made the costly cocktails and blackmail bribes well worth the rates. The bar stayed open despite not having a liquor license, thanks to cash bribes to the authorities. But, as often happens with these kinds of corrupt arrangements, the eruption came from those being exploited. Years of sanctioned attacks against gay people had fed the people's fury. It was illegal to serve alcohol in disorderly locations. Gay and lesbian people were considered intrinsically disorderly, so if a venue served alcohol and gays or lesbians could be ID'd, it was fair game to be raided. The police targeted gay clubs mercilessly with raids and arrests. One of these busts had been arranged to take place that historic night, but when the undercover cops and vice squad officers executed their scheme, things didn't go as planned. The vehicles the police planned to use to transport those under arrest were delayed, and their delay provided enough time for people to form a crowd outside the bar. It was made up of people from the bar the police hadn't detained, and others who had been called to the scene. By the time the transports arrived, the officers inside were afraid to step outside, scared that the crowd would overwhelm them. At that point, though, no real violence had broken out. One handcuffed woman kept escaping the police's clutches. As she was hurled into a police wagon, she called out, "Why don't you guys do something?" Her pleas sparked something in the onlooking crowd. They had seen their friends, their families, and themselves thrown into those wagons over the years, and her simple cry touched that deep pain. They erupted and rushed. As the officers pushed back against the crowd, bystanders became enraged and joined in the furious uprising. That event lasted less than 3 hours from the time the raid began until the time the tactical police force had cleared the street. All in all, that night involved around 500 to 600 people. The next night, 2,000 people participated in the riots, which continued for 6 days altogether. 1 year later, a march commemorating the riots was held on the Avenue of the Americas. The New York Times article on the march read, "Thousands of young men and women homosexuals from all over the Northeast marched from Greenwich Village to the Sheep Meadow in Central Park yesterday, proclaiming the new strength and pride of the gay people." This was the first Pride March, meant to honor those who stood up against unconstitutional, unjust laws and treatment perpetrated by law enforcement and the government. We continue to commemorate their rising up, and Pride serves to remind us that when laws are wrong, we can't just stand by as observers. Pride was sparked by a strong black lesbian who cried out to the watching crowd, "Why don't you guys do something?" And we need to continue to ask ourselves just that. That woman was Stormy DeLavier, and we've got more on her and other legends of the gay liberation movement later on The Visibility Show.